Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a deeper dive into the city of Lone Tree, Colorado, giving some details and some statistics on cost of living, affordability, and what it's like as far as cost of living in Lone Tree, Colorado. Stick around, I'm going to cover all that next. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Bill Knapp and I'm a full-time residential realtor in Denver, Colorado, and I produce these videos as a way to give you some idea and context of what life is like, whether you're moving here or moving within the city, and ideally it'll spur some interest or questions, so you can feel free to reach out and contact me either in the comments below or at the number below to see if I can possibly help you with your next move. And as I'm going along in the video, if anything I say or provides a little bit of value to you, do me a favor, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps me out with the algorithm and it'll keep you informed each and every time I push out a new video. Now, if you have not seen my pros and cons video about living in Lone Tree, I highly recommend checking that out. It'll have some great supplemental info that goes in association with this video and kind of gives you hopefully a well-rounded picture of what life is like in this neighborhood. If you're not familiar with where the city of Lone Tree is located, if you're leaving from downtown Denver and you just head straight south down I-25, it's going to be located kind of due south to southeast of downtown Denver. The actual location of Lone Tree is all to the western side of I-25, and it's a smaller neighborhood by comparison to a lot of the surrounding neighborhoods. That said, it has a tremendous amount of properties located right along the RTD light rail line, which gives it excellent commuting time and access to a lot of different areas. So for your reference, if you're leaving from Lone Tree and you're commuting out to Denver International Airport for a business trip, your drive time can be expected in the range of about 35 to 45 minutes if you take the tollway, and that'll add some cost, of course. Tollway is going to be about $16 one way from Lone Tree to DIA. If you're going up to Denver Tech Center, that's going to be about a 15-ish minute drive depending on time of day. And if you're commuting from Lone Tree up into downtown Denver, your drive time is going to be on the range of about 30-ish minutes or so, give or take. So to really start breaking down the cost of living in Lone Tree, I am going to pit Lone Tree against the US national average of all cities and states. And if you're not familiar with Lone Tree, in a snapshot glimpse, it's known for being a bit of a bougie, expensive, luxury community. So that said, compared to the US national average of 100%, the cost of living in Lone Tree has been rated by betterplaces.net as being 161%, meaning it's 61% more expensive to live in the city of Lone Tree compared to the US national average. That is primarily due to a variety of factors, which I'll break down here in just a few minutes, but the primary being the cost of the housing. Now, a 61% sounds like a heck of a lot more than the US national average, but believe it or not, Lone Tree is actually a bit more affordable than a couple other neighborhoods in and around the Denver metro area. It's more affordable to live in Lone Tree compared to Cherry Creek and Castle Pines Village. It's going to be more expensive to live in Lone Tree compared to the adjacent neighborhoods of Parker, Highlands Ranch, Centennial, and Aurora. So it's very relative based on what you're looking for and what your quality of life that you're used to and your expenses. Now let's kind of take a closer look about that national average and why Lone Tree is so much more expensive. And honestly, the driver for that is going to be the housing. And the housing here is really diverse and also very, very expensive. To provide context on that, the average entry point for a single family home in Lone Tree at the time of shooting this video at the end of 2022 is $1.12 million, which will get you about a 3 to 4 bedroom home with a 2-car to 3-car garage on a small parcel of land, which is really kind of awesome because a lot of people who live here are busy working professionals, mostly doctors, a lot of lawyers, a lot of people in the financial sector, and they don't want big yards, but it's very expensive nonetheless just to get into a single family home here. Now, in comparison to single family homes, there are a good amount of townhome opportunities with parks and trails nearby. An entry point for one of those is going to start in the range of about $670,000. And the most affordable property that you can find in Lone Tree is going to be the condominiums, and there are a bunch of them located in a variety of different buildings all along the RTD rail and highway system. And to get into one of those with a nice community private pool and gym, you're going to expect expect to pay around $546,000. Now, once you purchase a property, you're going to have some positive costs that are coming to you in the form of appreciation. In the last 2 years, we had some tremendous appreciation across the Denver metro area and really all of Colorado, thanks to low interest rates, low inventory, and a tremendous influx of new buyers coming to the Colorado Denver metro area. So year over year, this is actually going to be a small number, but we have appreciation in Lone Tree of 2.1%. The reason it's small is because Lone Tree is so expensive. If you figure 2.1% of appreciation year over year on $1 million home, that's pretty significant. Compare that to a neighborhood that averages $475,000-ish or so. That's where you're going to see a comparable appreciation of about 10 to 13.1%. Moral of the story being, Lone Tree is going to hold its value and continue to appreciate at least at 2%. Based on NAR projections, it's actually going to be a bit higher. We should be closer to 3.5% to 5.5% moving forward year over year, which is going to get you a very solid return on investment of your purchase. And a cost to consider that is a negative cost now will be your property taxes. Once you purchase a property in Lone Tree, Colorado, you can expect to pay a state property tax of about 0.51%. Depending on the amount of square footage or the size of parcel that you've purchased, that can equate to about $4,500 to $7,500 per year in property taxes. Building off the home costs, another one you're going to watch out for is going to be your homeowners association costs. Not every neighborhood in Lone Tree has an HOA, but most of them do. There are a few pocket neighborhoods which don't, and I know several people that have moved into those areas and love them, and I know people that have moved into the neighborhoods that have the HOAs and they love them also because of all the amenities. HOAs are very, very different. They're managed and owned and operated independently of one another, so the costs and the inclusions can vary from neighborhood to neighborhood. Be sure you do your due diligence and check your HOA so you can figure out if it's going to include what you like and it doesn't prohibit you from your quality of life. That said, some of the HOAs that I've seen in Lone Tree start on the low end at $210 per month, and some of the more luxury communities, I've seen them in excess of $700 plus per month. So really make sure you're checking into that when you do your purchase or when you're shopping for homes, because that HOA cost is in addition to your monthly mortgage payment. Purchasing isn't always for everybody, and if you love the Lone Tree area and you want to rent, an interesting stat and great news for you, the population is comprised of 41% rentals to 59% actual resident owners. So you have a tremendous amount of rental opportunity in the Lone Tree area. For those of you moving into the area as part of a relocation or just looking to find some kind of a rental to get you started, to get into a single family home, it's going to be relatively expensive, and you can expect that to be on the range of about $3,800 or so plus, depending on how big the home is and where it's located. Now, if you want to do a townhome or a condo, there are a lot more of those opportunities which are significantly more affordable, and those will start in the range of about $1,800-ish or so, and I've heard that they go as high as $3,000 depending again on the building, the amenities, and where it's located. And one of the final stock standard costs that I always advise people about when purchasing, especially in the Lone Tree area, it's going to be your taxes. State taxes in Colorado are relatively flat at 4.55%, and then the local tax in Lone Tree is right now at about 2.8%, putting you in that 7.7% state and local tax range, which is important to consider if you're making a larger purchase, being it a car or a boat. We do have Cabela's right there in Lone Tree. I know a lot of people make some pretty high-end purchases there. If you're buying anything along those lines, that added tax value is just something you're going to want to keep an eye on so you don't walk into something and be surprised. Now, this next point I mentioned previously on my pros and cons of living in Lone Tree, being that there's not a tremendous amount of nightlife, and a lot of people I know that live there really do utilize the amenities and the entertainment in Lone Tree, but oftentimes too, they'll go further out into the city, and there's a lot of added cost that goes with that. So having an appropriate or an idea budget of what you're looking to spend on your monthly or your weekly entertainment should be a factor when you're looking in Lone Tree, because there's not a lot of community events in the evenings per se. Another cost it's pretty much speaks for itself is the outdoors cost. There are a lot of people that move to Colorado or live and recreate in Colorado and do all things outdoors. If you don't have your outdoor equipment up to par, or if you need to update stuff, a lot of people routinely year after year will update their outdoor equipment, being skis or snowshoes or really expensive nice trucks for off-roading. Take your pick. There's so many things to do. It's a big playground, and a lot of people when they relocate here from somewhere else, like specifically in areas that don't have a lot of this recreation, are caught way by surprise when they go to different locations and like, oh my God, I need all this gear. And two of the primary variable costs that I always bring up for people, some people like them, some people don't. Those are going to be your annual ski passes and your annual park passes, being either state and or federal. We have some amazing federal parks here. We have some amazing state parks here. State parks on average are about $80 to $100 for an annual pass. If you go more than twice, it kind of pays for itself. If you go to a federal park, that's $80 for the year. There are some really tremendous federal parks in Colorado, and if you travel out of the state, you get to go to all those parks too. That's about $80 for that pass. It's kind of a no-brainer if you're into that kind of a recreation system. Now, I'm not going to get into the cost of ski passes because they're their own animal, depending if you buy annual passes, 4-packs, mountain specific. My recommendation is take a look at the mountain or mountains where you have the most interest. Go to their website, find out what package is going to fit you and your needs, and then you can make your purchase from there. But on the average, 4-packs are several $100s. Season passes are several hundred to several thousand. So do your due diligence. You know your budget better than I do. And the last variable cost is going to be related to schools. There are some great schools that Lone Tree participates within. All of them are located in the Douglas County School Zone, which is one of the top rated school districts in all of the Denver metro area. So your public schools are going to be really fantastic. That said, if you want something a little bit more private or a smaller teacher to student ratio like a private school offers, that's going to be an added cost, and that can be very, very expensive. Most of those will range from about $10,000 to $12,000 per year, depending on whichever school you go to. So take a look at your schools, figure out what's the best fit for you and your kiddo, and that'll help dictate what that looks like on a monthly cost. And the last variable cost I'll put out there to consider when looking in Lone Tree will be mostly centered around food and drink. I love going out and finding different restaurants and places to get good cocktails, and Lone Tree has no shortage of either of those. There are several really amazing restaurants like Sierra that I highly recommend go and check out. The food there is going to be a bit more expensive though, so it's not a place you're going to eat every single night. You want to have a budget set aside for that, because an average 2-person meal there probably is going to cost you in the range of about $110, $115 depending on what you order and if you have a drink or a bottle of wine. So hopefully this gave you a decent high-level idea of what you can expect as far as what the cost of living are like in Lone Tree compared to the US national average, or just for your general reference, whether you're moving within the city or from another city around the US. If you found anything I said or referenced in here helpful, do me a favor. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That way you can stay up to speed each and every time I release a new video. If I mentioned anything in the video where you have questions, or if I didn't go into enough detail for you, do me a favor, drop a comment below. I'll do my very best to jump in and give you a response, or feel free to contact me directly at my number listed somewhere here. I will pick up, or I will get back to you very, very quickly. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I am a licensed realtor. I really enjoy making this content. That way I give you some context of what to expect, and maybe we get the opportunity to work together. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end, get you some details and ideas about cost of living in Lone Tree, and I will see you all on the next one.